right, welcome everybody to today's expert interview. I am Liz Landry, your KW Talent Community Leader, and we are here with Dan and Christina O'Halloran out of New Hampshire to talk about something that I think is frankly very, very cool. Now, some of you may or may not know that at the end of the year, KWI kind of runs bare bones. So does KW Talent, and so do many other businesses in the regular structured corporate world. What you probably are afraid of is, as a real estate business and as a small business, how do I actually do this? And this is something that Christina and Dan have really nailed down and have been doing for years, which is awesome. And that's what we're here to talk about today is how do they really shut down their business the last 2 weeks of the year and bring that value to their team? How do they manage the processes? What are the systems they use without losing business? So I'm going to let them give you a little bit more specifics on where they're at in the New Hampshire region and a little bit more about them. And then we're going to get started on our interview. So Christina, Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, in case anybody wants to reach out to you or has New Hampshire real estate questions.
Awesome. Do you want me to go? Okay. So Dan O'Halloran, I got my real estate license back in 2005. So this marks 20 years in the business. Christine and I joined Keller Williams back in 2017 and created the whole team component. And I got to see this crazy world of Keller Williams that I felt like was a secret from 10 years of real estate, not in Keller Williams. And then I'm like, oh my God, this place is amazing. And we've had really awesome growth since we joined Keller since then.
Awesome.
Christine.
And I joined Dan in 2018, really. We started the company in 2017. I was working full-time in marketing and communications and healthcare. Then joined him in 2018, and I'm on the operations side of the house.
Cool. So now that we have a little bit of background on you guys, let's talk about the thing we're here to talk about today. You guys essentially shut business down and give your team and yourselves well-earned, I'm sure, time off at the end of the year. And you guys take, I believe it's 2 weeks. How did this get started and what does this look like? Like, just give our audience a little bit of perspective because their heads are probably popping off right now and going, well, I couldn't do that in my business. Like, we just have too much going on. How did this get started? When did it get started? And what does it really look like in your world? Like the real world, right? Like, we're a busy small business, real estate business where things are chaotic. What does this look like? How do we do it?
So to answer the first question, how we got started, I did spend a portion of my career in alumni relations and development work, so fundraising in higher education. And one of the most important times of year in that line of work is the last 2 weeks of the year, because that's the end of year fundraising. And a lot of higher education institutes close down the last 2 weeks of the year during their most important business period. And how we did it essentially was coming together and dividing up the days and making sure our phones were covered. And there was somebody on checking messages, checking emails, but doing it remotely. So we didn't have to be tied to campus. And that allowed people to go away for the holidays, spend time with their family, really get rejuvenated. And when I joined Dan, I figured, why can't we replicate that? Why can't we do that in real estate if we could do it in higher ed during our busiest 2 weeks of the year? So we started playing around with the model and brought it to real estate.
So, it's really interesting when we look at this, a lot of our rainmakers, our team owners, take those last 2 weeks off or take a significant portion of it off. And yet they've not necessarily found a way or wrapped their heads around the concept of, hey, I'm also going to give my team this time. When you guys started initiating this into your business, how did you do that? Right? So you obviously had a model, Christina, from previous experience, which was great. But how did we actually make this pivot, and what were maybe some learning curves along the way of instituting it into real estate, where we all know closings love to take place the last 5 days of the month, and that's when things are chaotic and right around the holidays. How'd you guys actually do it?
Yeah, so I think first it's really coming together with your operations team and getting really well organized. And I think when you pitch the idea of like, hey, if we could make this possible, if we could all take 2 weeks off at the end of the year, knowing that we would have to divide tasks a little bit, do it remotely and maintain coverage, would we all be willing to do that to have that time? And I don't know anyone that would actually say no to that, right?
Right.
So I think our team sat down and we're like, yeah, we're willing to try it, even if it's funky the first time, like, let's give this a go. So essentially what we did was we took the calendar and we said, okay, Christina, you're going to cover these days, Dan, you're going to cover these days. And we spread it out through the rest of the operations team, and we all divided up the days of the week. And when it was our day, we would monitor emails that came in, we would monitor phone calls. That wasn't meaning being tied to those systems 24/7 for the day, right? It was picking certain times throughout those days to make sure that we checked in, make sure things didn't slip through the cracks, and make sure they were routed to the appropriate place. So that was really step number one. Step two was how we communicated that to our clients and anyone that might be looking for our services during that time. So we do have a physical office in New Hampshire. So we made sure we had really great signage on our front door, wishing everyone happy holidays, letting them know the office was closed for a couple of weeks. But we had also closed our phone numbers as well. So in case anything urgent came up or somebody was really excited about a property that may have come on, which is really unlikely in New Hampshire in December, they could get a we also communicated that via our out of offices and making sure our operations team had appropriate messaging, not just like, hey, I'm gone for the week, but hey,
Right.
our office is closed for the holidays. We're still here if you need us immediately. This is how best to get a hold of us. So I think the communications of what we're doing and how people can reach you if they really, really need to is important. But most people, when they read that sort of messaging, they're like, hey, it's not urgent. I can wait till, after New Year to get a hold of them.
Right. So you said, right, like the first time we did it, even if it's a little bumpy, how was the first time? Was it bumpy?
Dan, what do you think?
I don't think so at all. And I think there's a culture component that we've created over the years with our team too of vacations. Like we like to travel a lot and we all like our time off. And we know that everyone's a better version of themselves when they've had some sanity and some time off. And so our team is very passionate about if they go on vacation, we're all trying to sell something for them when they come back. And it's not like I showed you a house and I get a commission or anything. It's literally the goal is to support each other. The team supports the team. So we are out there like literally you go on vacation, you unplug and relax, and then we're doing all the work behind the scenes amongst our team to make sure you're covered and taken care of. So that same culture then transitions to the end of the year where whoever's on deck or whoever needs coverage, or maybe someone actually took a vacation at the end of the year and they're out of country or something, then the team is stepping up to help cover what has to happen and go there. So it kind of, this model goes right into how we've kind of created everything in general to really support each other and travel and have fun and take some time off when needed.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for giving me that layup into my next question, which was culturally in the business, right? So you guys obviously have a culture where you support vacations. You like to travel. You want the team to take that downtime, which is awesome. How does it feel coming back from this, right? Like culturally for the team, like what do you believe this actually brings to the team from a culture standpoint, from an energy standpoint? Like what changes, what are the benefits because of this, right? Like as small business owners, like we know it's chaotic. We're flying the plane and repairing the plane at the exact same time. And sometimes though we want to spend all the time with family at the end of the year and we want to take some downtime and business might be slower, we know we need to lean in because the first quarter is rough no matter what market you're in. The first quarter is the slowest quarter in real estate. Do you feel this affects you guys? Is anybody worried like I'm not going to make any money if I do this and I won't have any sales? Does everyone come back raring to go? Like, what's the value for me if I'm a business owner listening to this right now to say, I'm not going to lose money. This is actually going to help my business. Like, how does that show up for you guys?
I mean, I think the biggest thing here is you're going to do so much more business if your people are burnt out and tired and not the best versions of themselves. And that can really amplify at the end of the year when there's pressure, not only work-wise, but with family, with the holidays, with the trying to do it all and be all to everyone, right? And at the end of the day, when we're lead generating, when we're doing the hard stuff together to grow a business for Q1, that's happening way before the last 2 weeks of the year, right? Like that's happening, it starts in October, November, early December. So by the time, if we're doing all those things right, if we're working together as a team, if it's staying consistent, we can totally take those last 2 weeks off, recharge together. And then when we come back after the new year, we're ready to go.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say it. Like, I look at that, like, I think about the way everyone is the last week before they go on vacation, right? Those last couple days before you go on vacation, like, you are moving, right? Everything's getting done because come Sunday or come Monday at 5 o'clock, boom, you're on that flight and there is no turning back. Like, we work really hard the last few days before vacation to make sure everything is done. I can just imagine looking at that and saying, what if my whole team from Thanksgiving to December 20th was moving towards this goal of, we're going to get so much done because we know we're going to take and get this downtime. Because, man, it's really hard to get real estate agents moving after Thanksgiving, but it doesn't sound like that's a problem you guys have.
Dan, do you want to add anything there?
I mean, and you always have days that work really well and weeks that work great and others that don't, right? I mean, it's salespeople and life, right? So, but we work on that structure and accountability and that preparation with them to really make sure that that time is well cherished and utilized when they have it off. So I think the biggest thing is really, don't be scared of taking the plunge and trying something like this. And honestly, like, January is so important. And you have, like, when you come back that first week, people are going to have vacation family fog for the first few days, right? And then so you look at that first week of January, and you're not getting 100% productivity out of people. You're maybe getting 60% out of everybody as they're starting to learning to walk again, right? After those 2 weeks. And then
the reintegration back from vacation is always very challenging.
It is so
for
hard.
everybody. It's hard.
So I think, like, if you do it this way, at least by the start of the second week of January, your people are like a well-oiled machine, cruising and grooving and getting it done, where otherwise they might not be. So,
and they're all doing it together. Like, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that everyone's in the cycle together, because, and this is a conversation I have to have with our clients and our KW talent members all the time, is that, like, hey, the year doesn't end on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Like, that is not the end of the year. Like, you got a month after that we can get productivity in. And I think this concept really actually encourages those first few weeks of December to be really strong. Now, before we move on to the next thing, which is what I know is on everybody's brains right now, which is operationally, what system do you actually use to make this work? Do you guys have, like, a specific, when you look at the holidays at the end of the year or the dates at the end of the year, like, what day or date do you try to aim for when you're structuring this to say, hey, we're all coming back January 1st, or, you know what, we're going to give people 2 days after the new year to come back. Like, and what's the day we kind of depart? Like, do you actually have a structure? Is it 14 solid days? What does that look like? How do we pick those days?
So we have, actually have a pretty aggressive holiday calendar, which I didn't think it was that way, but again, I was in higher education for a little bit, right? And then when I share with people how many holidays that we give to our operations staff, what? So we're usually somewhere right before Christmas Eve, all the way through, depending on if it's a weekend or not, January 2nd or 3rd, as like one big bulk. But in addition to that, I think we're like 17 or 19 holidays, depending on where other holidays fall in. And on top of that, our operations staff has 4 weeks paid vacation through our team. So we've had to really systemize in order to be able to offer that time off to make sure stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. And I think, honestly, it came down to really figuring out and dialing in our phone system to work wherever we have to be, whether it's in New Hampshire or in a different state, and making sure that ties in really, really well to our database, and that that kind of serves as our backup. So communication, regardless of who's on deck for it, doesn't fall through, and that other people have access to it to check.
Perfect. I would just like to highlight for everybody watching this today that this is why strong operational talent is really important, right? As you're listening to Christina talk about this, she's like, we have the calendar this way and we do these things. And now we're going to talk about the actual system that backs it. This is why operational talent and operational support, like, hug and love your ops people. Well, maybe don't hug them because that might be kind of weird. However, love your operations team and support them, because good, talented operations people are what make our businesses go round, especially when we want to accomplish things like this. So now let's jump into that next part, because that's the thing picking at everybody's brain is, how does it actually happen? You say, well, we've got this calendar and we rotate our on the phone calls. Like, what kind of technology and tools are you actually using to back this system? Or what processes if it isn't technology and tools?
So get into the nitty gritty, like
The
that.
nitty
Okay.
gritty. Well, the highlight reel of the nitty gritty. We can't get into all of it, but the
Sure.
things that people should look for and be aware of, hey, if you're actually going to do this, these are some of the things that we use and some of the ways we do it.
Yeah. So first it comes down to our phone system. And this was one that's taken us a couple of years to figure out for sure. I will say I'm on operations. Dan's our resident tech guy, so he's better explaining the phone system than I am. But essentially we use Comcast here over in New Hampshire, and we played with a lot of different phone systems, from Umail, which we still kind of use, to purchasing our databases Follow-Up Boss. So we purchase phone numbers specifically for Follow-Up Boss. So every agent has, in addition to their personal cell phone number, they have a database phone number that ties them from our Comcast system into Follow-Up Boss, where more than just them have access to those voicemails that come in, to those emails that are. And I think that's really scary for a lot of people to give other people access to their database. But I can't even say how valuable that is if you're looking for teams that want to give people complete time off. Like, truly, go on that European vacation, disconnect. You never have to check your email. You don't have to check your phones. I got you when you're away. So if you have a team that really trusts one another, I think this is a system that's beyond invaluable to implement. So Comcast for our phone system, phone numbers that are routed into our database. And then that again allows us to create the calendar of who's on deck, meaning who's responsible for that day or that period of time to be monitoring those communications. And then from there, it's making sure the database, and ours is Follow-Up Boss, making sure you have systems and workflows in place that when that communication comes in, whoever is on deck knows how to handle that. So a lot of training does have to come into play here too, because if you're just like, hey, Dan, I'm going on vacation for a week, you're going to start receiving all of my client communication. And he has no idea what to then do with said client communication or what stages people are in. That kind of all falls apart. So making sure that we have really strong processes for debriefs before somebody is completely out for a while, meaning that somebody else on the team knows who their client list is, any really active hot leads that they're working that might come to fruition in the next, name the time span, that sort of stuff.
So when you guys do this calendar, are you like, so if, Christina, if you're like, hey, these are my 2 days, are those days back to back? Are they spread out? What does this actually look like? Do you try to say, well, are you actually going on traveling somewhere? Are there days that you absolutely can't? Like, do we integrate those types of things, or how do we structure that?
Yeah, I think that can be really by a per person basis. Playing around with this, and we've done it like a variety of different ways over the years. I do think when you group days together, so like say somebody's out for 7 days, and you have 2 different people covering that time span. It's a lot easier having somebody take the first half and somebody take the second half versus alternating days, because again, that's a mental mind switch, right? Like to get in and out of that takes a lot of effort. So I do think when you can block things together, it's really, really useful for the people that are covering.
Awesome. All right. And our final point we're going to go on, and you touched on it a little bit earlier. And Dan, I know when we were doing our pre-interview, you had some specifics to bring into this on how it worked, but let's talk about setting expectations, right? Because things will kind of rise and fall in a leadership capacity on expectations. Clarity is kind, lack of clarity is unkind, right? If we just shut down our business for a couple of weeks and we don't set expectations with our staff on how that works and what that looks like and how they'll be compensated or why we do this. And if we don't set expectations with our clients, like we just get a big hot mess. Like, cool, you're taking time off, but if we don't actually have expectations and processes backing it, right? How does that happen? What is the expectation that when we discuss this with our staff? What if they say, Dan, I don't want to take 2 weeks off. Can't I just do that in July? I'd rather do it in July.
They got to take the time off. Like, I mean, they have to. We talk about it all the time. So for us, if someone hasn't on our team taken a vacation in a while, we're pressuring them to prioritize it and block it in their calendar, staff or agent. So our staff don't really have a choice. They're going to take the time off. They're going to enjoy their family. If they want to dip their toe in to follow up or ensure a higher level of success is happening on a certain sale or something that's going on, we're not going to say no, don't, follow through on your job, but we're going to really be watching and making sure that they are prioritizing time off and trying to disconnect. Life's way too short. So, and there you have some clients that might come in and honestly, some you really don't need in your life. So you don't have to, if you miss a lead that comes in that must see something on Christmas Eve, you don't need them in your life. They can go somewhere else. It's one sale.
And especially if you're doing your job, right? If you're
Yeah.
actually doing your job, like the other 340 days a year, right? If you're doing your lead gen, if you've got business, you don't have to answer the Christmas Eve lead.
No.
That let it go. Yeah, let it go.
Yeah.
It's not good. So how do we start setting, how and when actually, like when do we actually start calendar wise setting expectation with existing clients that we're going to be honing the business back to about 10% during this time period? How and when does that start taking place?
Okay, so usually it's going into December to a degree. Like as we get closer to it, we don't give them a ton of lead up time. But it's when you have, say we have a bunch of closings in December, whatever is closing, we're letting them know, hey, our office might not be staffed. We're still reachable. We're going to see the closing through and deal with all that, right? And invariably, people get together between Thanksgiving and Christmas. There's family. They all talk about real estate. Then all of a sudden, someone's relocating and coming to town or leaving, right? So there's a level of you have to be in some version of communication, but we'll those very active sales and clients, we're going to manage that expectation as we're getting closer to whatever their specific timeline is. And then with all of that, we do business planning towards that last quarter of the year, and we're talking about everything. So we really cover what their businesses want to look like, what is their personal business plan for life and vacations and quality in their world. And so we run 2 planning tracks. And a lot of that then dovetails straight into how we end the year and those final 2 weeks, both from a staff and agent perspective. So
I love that. And now, Christina, you mentioned earlier and then we also put our phone numbers on the door and we do these things. And this is part of the processes that you use behind the scenes. Do you guys ever run into problems with that? Like, has any crazy person ever taken the phone number, right? Like if we're real estate agents, like our phone number's not everywhere anyways. But like, have you ever had any problems with just doing that? Has a client ever been irate? I can't believe you guys aren't here. You took too long. There's a problem. Or is it just kind of like, hey, this is business and we're taking this time?
Pretty much, yeah. We've never had somebody get upset or angry. I mean, the cool thing is we've had somebody, actually a couple of people use the phone numbers on the door and reference like, hey, I got your phone number on the door. And there are people that weren't already connected to us. They weren't
Nice.
clients. They were essentially a brand new relationship. So it's kind of like tracking who was coming to the office too. And again, they read the message. They were super respectful about it. They're like, it's not urgent, but I'd love to connect with you when you get back. So I think more cool has come out of it than anything bad.
That's awesome. And you said a key thing on there, and I think this was the important part. And I want to circle back to it earlier. What you said is you say in that posting on the door and in the out of office responders, you've been very specific about the language that you guys use in it. And one of the things that you said earlier that might have slipped by that people might not have heard is we're taking this time off to spend time with our families. Right? If somebody's like, well, that's appalling. We don't like that. I can't believe that. Like, is that really the kind of person you want to be doing business with? And it's just like, it's hard for somebody to still be a jerk at that point and be upset because it's like, oh, got it. Right. And I think that's very important. There's a big difference, in my opinion, between we're taking these last 2 weeks off and we're taking this time off to spend with our families. Your families might be your Monstera plant. I don't care what it is, but whatever your family is what your family is, right? So for all of you out there that are like, well, I don't have kids, it doesn't matter. It's, if you like to spend time with your plants, getting your energy back, cool. But I think that verbiage is very important. And you guys both said in our pre-interview that that's very particular, the verbiage you use in your out of offices and on those signs and the communication with the client. Is there any quick tips that we would want to give on that?
I think I'll say it, but Dan really should talk about it because it was totally his idea, especially with our out of offices. In addition to, having that sort of clear messaging, we also provide a lot of links to helpful resources. So if it's the last 2 weeks of the year, usually we'll have an events post on our website talking about all the great things in the Sunapee region that people can do around the holidays. So we would include that in our out of office. We might include links to, just listed properties, anything that they could find beneficial while they are waiting for us to get back to them if it's not an urgent request, right?
Perfect.
So I think the beauty of that too is you get people that email you while you're out that aren't someone that you're currently working for, right? And so if you have a really unique response, it's not like, hey, see you later, I'm out. And they're like, oh crap, okay, I guess I got to call a different number. And in this situation, they actually go, oh, look, that's a different response. And they start clicking through your website and you get a lead conversion that will then get routed through the team, right? At least for me as team lead, I get a lot of leads that come in, and it's kind of also doing a little minor prospecting instant response to somebody of, hey, here's a lot of amazing information, take a deeper dive. And then maybe they sign up on the website and then get directed to one of our agents. So that works really well. The other thing that's important is where you're directing them. So phone numbers and emails. So we have an email that will ping all of our operations staff. So if someone needs immediate assistance, they can just do one simple email and it hits all of us. So depending on who's monitoring, then they can jump in. And then we have phone numbers that will go to a follow-up boss voicemail bucket that operationally we can all access and monitor and stuff like that too. So it really creates a really smooth working platform for us. And it's worked out really, really well. I mean, there's always some bumps, but it's been pretty awesome. So
it's real estate. If it didn't have bumps, it wouldn't be real estate, right?
Exactly.
All right. So we're down to our last couple of minutes here. And here's the thing that I want to ask both of you. And Christina, we will start with you, and Dan, we will wrap with you, is what's the moral of the story or the learning lesson or the last nugget you want to leave everybody with? Yeah, I put you in the hot seat, Christina. Sorry. What's the last thing that you would want to leave everybody with? Like, if they didn't hear it the first time, here's the last thing to make sure that they hear it before they sign off in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think especially if you're running a team, if you're part of a team, we all got in this business to do something really, really cool, right? And to be surrounded by people that are just as excited and energetic as we are to go after it all. And I think if you want to maintain that on the long run, it's making sure that people also have the time to refresh, rejuvenate, feel supported. And I think it's just such a more sustainable model to focus on things like this if you're planning for the long term.
Awesome. I love it. Dan, the hot seat is yours.
Great. I think it shows an example to your people that you value time off and structure and standards and are not my personal pet peeve in real estate is the tornado real estate agent that's always too busy, heavy sighing, running around like crazy.
I don't know what those are. What are you
10,000 bags? Like, oh God. So like it's reaffirming in my mind of you can go have a plan to go running at 10 in the morning, right? And an agent and a seller or buyer wants to meet with you and say, hey, sorry, I have commitments. They don't need to know your whole life story or what you're doing. You have commitments. This is the same way of making commitments to yourself, your team, and your company for some value added time off and some clarity. And so I think that is probably one of the biggest things is you're showing up for your team by setting these standards in place.
I think that's really a good point, especially they don't need to necessarily know what the commitments are on the smaller things, like the 10 o'clock. I have an appointment. Doesn't matter that appointment is to go for a run or to do some journaling or to, take your kid to school. It's irrelevant. You have a commitment that you had already pre-done and pre-made, and sticking to that. People can be very flexible when they have expectations. Expectations go miles. And for me, I will leave you all with my last takeaway on this, and it is expectations. Expectations solve most problems. What is usually happening when we run into a problem or a disagreement with somebody is that they had expectation A and you had expectation B. If expectations are set and expectations are clear, we rarely actually have problems. When we have a disconnect between an expectation that we had and it not being met all of a sudden, that's when we run into big problems. It's when expectations aren't met. So when you set your expectations clearly, you can do exactly what Christina and Dan and their team do at the end of the year and throughout the year. I don't know if you guys caught it. Christina said they have, I think, 17 holiday days and 4 weeks of vacation for their operational staff. Like, y'all, that's 45 days. Like, that's a lot of time, right? That is massive amounts of time off. And they have a good culture and they have a happy team. And that's what it results in. And so I think that's really important. So expectations solve everything. So Dan, Christina, I want to thank you guys so much for being here with us today for this expert interview. My hope is that at least some of our folks will begin implementing this in their business so that they and their teams can have a better culture, a better first quarter from what it sounds like, and that well-deserved time off. So for the rest of you viewing today, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you all on our next expert interview.